So in this prepress tutorial, we're going to show you a little bit about defaulting fonts and how you can solve that problem by creating your fonts outlines, having your fonts turned on in your system, or sending the printer your font. So what sometimes happens if you open up a file, regardless if it's Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop, and it's highlighted pink like this, that means the font isn't active in your system, and that can mean a number of things. It can mean that you don't have the font, or you have the font but you haven't turned it on in a font management software like, say, Typekit or Suitcase, or you don't have the font installed directly onto your computer's font library. Regardless, when we send our files to a printer, if we don't, like in Illustrator, if we don't create it to outlines, then this is what's going to happen to them, and then they'll send you a message back saying, hey, we need that font in order to put your file together and print it out, or they're going to have to go and find the font and purchase it so that they can print your file out. So best practices is usually you want to avoid that, and it may preview fine, but before you send everything off to the printer, you want to just save yourself another file, name it something differently, but create everything to outlines in it so that they don't run into this problem. So, excuse me. So to kind of show you, we see that this is lines. That's how Illustrator sees this, is that this is all lines, and they're vector, but it sees this as an editable font. So what we want to do is, by creating the text to outlines, we're going to make it a graphic, just like we see the figure here. So it's something as simple as, like we said, it can preview okay, and even I've seen PDFs where the fonts default too, and so you basically just want to make sure that the font is turned on into your system. In this case, it's Bauhaus. So we'll go back to our file. And normally they open up directly after you've turned on the font, but in this case it hasn't, so that means we're just going to go to Bauhaus, and we're going to just set it to Bauhaus. And we'll set it to bold. Set that to bold as well. So looks like we got a duplicate in here, so we'll just get rid of the duplicate. Show all, and so now we have our font turned on. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my font, and I'll go to Type, and I'll create it to outlines. And now you can see, as we're creating it outlines, it becomes lines. It's graphics. So at this point, now it won't default whatsoever. And I know in some instances we get nervous. We don't want to, we'll back up a bit here. We don't want to lose the font, in terms of we need to know, what font did I use in this? And there's a way that you can, kind of do that, and that is by simply taking your font and making a copy of it. So I'm going to take everything here and copy it, and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to put the layer at the bottom, and I'm going to just paste it in place. So it's in the same spot. And we'll just name this Bauhaus font. I'm going to turn it off because I don't need it. Because what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to create this all to outlines. Like so. And so now when I turn on, you see it's all graphics now. But if I ever wonder, or if the printer wonders what font was actually used, when we open this file up again, if the font isn't turned on, then what happens is they'll get an alert and they'll get a highlight and say that the font isn't active in the system. But they can still print because you've included a layer that the font is turned to graphics. So they can ignore that alert because you've already done the labor for them and turned it into graphics, but you left one file, a layer on there just so that we would know what the actual font was. But that's how we correct defaulting fonts in Digital Prepress with Illustrator.